This video is very similar to the application word problems we did last time, except now you're going to have an inequality somewhere in your problem. So whenever you're doing this, be careful. You have to pay attention to the words less than, greater than, because sometimes less than will mean minus, sometimes it'll mean your inequality sign. But on every problem for this, you should have an inequality somewhere. So you should have a less than, a greater than, a less than or equal to, or a greater than or equal to sign. So let's look at number one. Number one says the width of a box is 7 centimeters less than its length. Here, less than actually does not mean the inequality sign. If you read carefully, width, we're going to call W, is means equals, 7 less than its length. Remember, 7 less than does not mean 7 minus, it means minus 7. So we're going to say L minus 7. Our width is our length minus 7. Then it says, what is the length of the box if the perimeter is more than 34? So I know that my perimeter is more than 34. That's where your inequality sign comes in. You can think of it as P for perimeter is more than 34. Or if you think about a rectangle, you can actually plug in your rectangle perimeter formula, which is 2L plus 2W is more than 34. That's where the inequality sign comes in. Some people like to actually draw this out with a rectangle. We just found that the width is L minus 7. And we don't know what the length is, so we're just going to call that L. Well, your perimeter means that you're going to add up all 4 sides, and we know that that's going to be more than 34. So you have 2 options here. You can either add it up looking at your picture, or you can take L minus 7 and you can plug it in for W on your inequality. Let's look at our picture. So if I add L plus L plus L plus L, that's going to become 4L. Negative 7 and negative 7 combine to give me negative 14. And we know the perimeter is more than 34. I'm going to solve this just like normal. I'm going to add the 14 to both sides. And 4L is greater than 48. Then I'm going to divide by 4. And I know that the length has to be more than 12. Let's look at number 2. Number 2 says a repairman earns $700 per month plus 3% commission on parts he sells. So no matter what, the repairman is going to earn $700 plus 3% commission on parts he sells. So when you have 3%, be careful. We're not going to write this as 3. We are going to write this as a decimal, and to convert 3% to a decimal, remember you just move it 2 to the left. 3% is the same thing as 0.03. You can also think of it as 3 over 100, which is 0.03. And he's going to take 3% of whatever commission he sells. I'm going to call that X. Then it says, how much does he need to sell in parts to have a monthly salary of at least $1,000? So think about the word at least. If you have to be at least 16 years old to drive, that means you can be 16 or you can be older than 16. At least here means he wants or he needs $1,000, or it would be great if he could get more than $1,000. So we are going to use the sign greater than or equal to for at least. Now to solve, I'm just trying to get X by itself. So I'm going to subtract 700 from both sides. When I do that, 0.03x is greater than or equal to 300. From here, I need to divide both sides by 0.03. And 300 divided by 0.03 means X is greater than or equal to 10,000. He needs to sell at least 10,000 in parts to earn at least $1,000. Moving on to number 3. On number 3, we're talking about Brenda and we're talking about Tony. So I'm going to use B for Brenda and T for Tony. It says Brenda and Tony earned no less than $599. No less than. So the least amount they earned was $599. So B plus T together, no less than means the opposite of less than. So I'm going to use greater than or equal to 599. Then it says Brenda earned, so B equals half as much as Tony. Now, you can solve this using a fraction or you can solve this using a decimal. It's really up to you. I will show you how to do it both ways. First, if we're going to do it with a fraction, you're going to take 1/2 T, since that's what B equals, and you're going to replace B with it. You're going to plug it in for B. This becomes 1/2 T plus T is greater than or equal to 599. Now, T is the same thing as 1T, which you can think of as 2 over 2T. So if I want to combine these, 1 over 2 plus 2 over 2 is 3 over 2T. Now I need to get rid of my fraction, and we've talked about this before. To get rid of a fraction, you're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply the left side by 2 over 3, and I'm going to multiply the right side by 2 over 3. On the left, 2 over 2 and 3 over 3 cancel, and I'm left with T. I'm going to move it up here just because I'm running out of room. On the right, 599 is the same thing as 599 over 1. So I'm going to multiply this straight across. 599 times 2 is 1,198. 1 times 3 is just 3. This simplifies to 399.3 repeating. Since we're talking about money, we can round it to the hundredths place to be $399.33. So Tony earned at least that much. Let's look at this if we decided to use a decimal. So if I said B plus T is greater than or equal to 599, and then B equals 0.5T, that's the same thing as 1/2 T. The steps look very similar, but some people find it easier to solve with a decimal. So I'm plugging in 0.5T for B. So 0.5T plus T is greater than or equal to 599. Well, 0.5 plus 1 is 1.5. And now all I have to do to get T by itself is to divide by 1.5. When you do this, you get the exact same answer. T is greater than or equal to 399.33. I don't care if you use fractions or decimal, whatever makes the most sense to you. Okay, for our last one, we're talking about John. John has test scores of 82, 90, 73, and 64 so far. He wants his average to be at least an 80. This is actually something you can use in your classes to see what you need to get on your next assignment. So, anytime you average something, whenever you average something, that means you're going to add up everything you have, and then you're going to divide it by however many there are. So, John already has scores of 82, 90, 73, 64, and then we don't know what he's going to make on his next test. So we're going to call that X. We're trying to figure out what he needs to make on his next test. When he takes that next test, that will mean that he will have 5 tests total. Here's where a lot of people make a mistake. They divide it by 4, but really we're going to include that missing test. We're including X. So you actually want to divide by 5. Now, it says he wants at least an 80. So he wants an 80 or higher. For at least, we're going to use the inequality greater than or equal to. And now all I need to do is solve for X. So my first step in doing this is I'm going to add 82 plus 90 plus 73 plus 64. When you do that, this becomes 309 plus X all over 5 is greater than or equal to 80. My next step, since 309 plus X is all included in the numerator, is to get rid of my denominator. I need to get rid of the over 5. So to do that, the opposite of dividing by 5 is to multiply both sides by 5. When I do that, the 5's cancel on the left, and I'm left with 309 plus X. On the right, 80 times 5 is 400. Now to get X by itself, all I have left to do is to subtract 309 over. And what we just found is that John needs to get a 91 or higher, at least a 91, to maintain a B average. These notes, these problems are very, very similar to the application notes that we took previously. The only difference is now you have an inequality sign, so you have to read very carefully.